top 3 books that you would like to recommend to the listeners?
One, I love the Bhagavad Gita. I think I've been reading I've seen my family reading. That's one text that I go back to again and again. Recently, with the Hare Krishna mission, I really understood in much depth what jewels the text has. The other books, I think there are too many that I love, but something that I've really gone back to again and again, and something that's changed my life is by Khalil Gibran, The Prophet. It changed my perspective. It was not just reading it, but also thinking about it much deeper. And third is by Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. That's something that in the last few years I have gifted also quite a lot, and I do
Really?
read it also.
What is that one lesson, one mantra, or one thing that you abide by every single day in every phase of your life that is like your go to?
So that is this too shall pass. Everything. I think the good, the great, the bad, the worse, I think everything is transient. So that's something that I go by.
Hi, welcome everyone. Yet another series of Ruh Se, and this time we are doing Being You, Changing the World. Today we have Priyanshi Patel with us. She is the MD of Tirupati Agrotech, founder of Olexa Oil, founder of Karma Foundation. And how I know Priyanshi, she is a girl with a golden heart. She is a godmother to millions of people, and every life that she has touched with that sprinkle, that pixie dust. Once she is in a life of someone, she makes sure that that life changes forever. So, thank you so much, Priyanshi. Thank you for saying yes in this busy schedule, and thank you for joining this little candid conversation that we are going to have. Being You, Changing the World is something that came up very, very intuitively. And it was discussing with you what should we do for as a next series for podcast. And this popped up, I think, because this is very, very close to my heart as well. More often than not, I have, in my experience, met so many people in my profession who have been struggling to be themselves. And that disparity between who they are and who they want to be is somewhere not allowing them to be fully themselves, to achieve what they are capable of achieving, to be who they can be. And in all of that, they lose themselves. So, with this thought, I was hoping that we come up with some things that can really be an inspiration to people who are watching this. And who better than you, who has truly imbibed the essence of being you. So, once again, thank you and welcome. How has your growing up years been?
Before we begin, thank you so much for inviting me in this space. This space, I think it is embodiment of you. The vibes here are so beautiful. You know, like ever since I walked in, I'm in love with every single detail that has been curated. So for the ones who've not been to the space, I highly, highly recommend to experience the beauty and the joy and the bliss of being in this space. So I'm enjoying the space completely.
Thank you.
And, my growing up years, have been quite sprinkled all over the place. I've not grown up in one place. When I was like 5 years old, I was in a boarding school for a year.
Okay.
And after that, I came back to the city, and I've changed 6 schools over my young years. So there's been a lot of transitions. And I think very early on in my life, I got very used to the idea of everything being very transient, and things being very temporary, that everything changes and everything moves. So it's helped me carve out a very unique identity about who I am and how I wish to express myself in different circumstances.
Wow, that's beautiful. And that is also something that most of us struggle with, change. We resist change so much. So, if that was introduced in this bits and pieces as a growing up experience, I think that would have been a great learning while you were growing up. So, how was it being the firstborn of the family?
Yeah. Wow. That's altogether a different experience. I think when we see a lot of reels about what it means to be the first daughter or the
Yes,
first
yes,
person of the
yes.
family, I think I do carry a lot of traces of how it shapes you.
Yes.
And then over the years, you do question: is that really who you are, and is that the essence of you, or is it the surroundings that have carved you in that particular fashion? So there's always this struggle. So I've been the firstborn in my family, and we've been having four siblings in the house. So all my cousins, and we've all grown up. And somehow it's like after my birth, a lot more of cousins came through. So there's a very different perspective about being the oldest. You're asked to grow up even when you're a child. So it does have a longer impact on the kind of responsibilities that you shoulder.
Yes.
So I think those formative years really helped me understand what are roles, what are responsibilities, what do you need to do. And there's a beautiful quote that I really love, that the measure of an education is your ability to do what you have to do and not necessarily what you want to do. So I think it
Can you
became the
repeat that once, please?
I will have to really go back and see, but what it
Yes.
the
What the
essence of
curse?
that
Yes, yes, yes.
is that the quality of education is marked by not what you want to do, but being able to do what you ought to do.
That's very profound. Very,
And
very profound. Yes.
if you think about it, that education, that's what it does. That we do chase a lot of pleasures, a lot of things that we want to do, versus what we should be doing at a given point. So I think all of those ingrainment started as the firstborn, in terms of there was a certain decorum that I had to maintain, certain way that I had to lead, being the oldest. And leading at such a young age at global platforms, I'm questioned a lot of times, how are you doing what you're doing at this age? And I think it was all because of the conditioning that I got, and the kind of exposure to doing these things in this certain way at a young age.
So that already made you a leader.
Yeah, it was, like, maybe it's a mix of a lot of things, that it was thrusted upon me too young. And then I was living by myself very young. At 5, I think, when you're taking care of yourself in a boarding school, I think it does set you up for anything that life is going to come back to you eventually.
Yes, yes, yes. So these days, there is a lot of talk about teenagers and the struggles that teenagers face, and the struggles that even parents have with the struggling teenagers, or the juggling teenagers, or the confused teenagers. These are the tags mostly teenagers are labeled with. All the more in this generation, the Gen Z, where they are all the more distracted, or not very in alignment with what is expected out of them. So, how was your teenage like? Was it challenging? Was it different of how it is now? What was it like?
My teenage years were, very, very, very difficult. Not just for me, but I think for my parents as well.
Okay.
The entire ecosystem was not ready for what I gave them with. And these days, when everyone tell me that that my daughter's very much like me, so they're like, you've been like that. Do you know what your daughter's going to be? And I'm like, I was what I am, so I am ready. God bless everyone else. But I struggled a lot, and I think that weaves in very beautifully with our theme about being you.
Yes.
And in that period, I was exploring who I really am, as the ideas that I had to confine with versus what my story was, what I wanted to do. There was a lot of contradiction. Like, I was not able to understand who I am versus what I was told to be. And those challenges became beautiful spots for me to understand how do you function even when these challenges happen. And even today, we now understand how life is a series of different challenges that are going to come to you no matter what you do. So in face of these challenges, conflicts, contradictions between what you want versus what you get, how to survive in that space and excel in that space, that is what those formative teenagers taught me. All of these contradictions and questions and everything was really stemming from my gut, wherein I was I was confused. I was making everything else really chaotic around me. But with all of that, I had my vision in mind that, I always have it in me that I need to be the best. Where I am, I need excellence, and I need that position of an authority wherein whatever I do becomes the gold standard for things. Like I'm obsessed with, driving that kind of excellence and becoming that kind of excellence. So understanding how we can get to that with all of these changes coming in, that's what teenage years were for me. And at that time, with the disconnect of education, learning, and the kind of environment that was around, I believe I was really difficult with my parents, and I have a lot of gratitude and positive things about them and how they handled me in that period, which is beautiful.
I think that's again very, very crucial because in that make or break years, if that mind and that heart is not handled well, that can be a very different recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, we're in this space wherein there's healing, spirituality, and stuff. So I think if a life phase is given to you, if a challenge is given to you, you also have resources and people and angels around you. So I did have an angel who supported me in this journey. I think a lot of holding on to those years and those conflicts was beautifully managed by those people around who ensured
Those
not
angels,
just
the human
safety but
angels. Yeah.
protections. Yeah.
Correct.
So in all different ways, I felt like I was held beautifully by those energies of love and acceptance.
Right.
And having that love and acceptance, even when there is chaos around, even there is conflict around, even at the time wherein I do not understand myself or understand my situations and who I wish to be, that did fill in a lot of positivity in terms of, like the world has both the good, bad, and it's the balance in between. So even though there were a lot of inside conflicts and turbulences, this beautiful force of unconditional love and unconditional protection, unconditional care, it did make me understand that all of this is also there. The challenges are a part, so you just got to navigate these two paths.
So that made you believe in the goodness and that strength that is always available. It's just a call away.
Absolutely.
You just need to believe in that.
Yeah.
Yes. You very beautifully mentioned about the struggles as well as the way in which you were held, the space that people were holding. As you grew up and you were one of those who have founded so many different platforms and started so much as an initiative. You started ABC, you started Karma. And what was the driving force behind being that space? Uh, and starting these platforms for that, what was a bigger cause that you envisioned before starting this?
Your families play a large role, and I think heritage and where we come from has a lot of influence on us. Like again, being you, and there are these things around that has a larger than life impact on you. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, has served the country in the most beautiful way and for the longest time. He came from a philosophy of service, seva, what we say. So he served so many around. Like I've seen him in that absolute larger than life. Nehruji came to our place, Indira Gandhi had come to our place. So we've seen all of those stories. That even our prime minister, in used to like come down and bow to my grandfather, not because of anything, but because of the kind of service he did to people. So service was at the base. How I saw in my family also, within the family structure, there was this feeling of service, that everyone served one another without ego. From my father's side as well, like all the members were involved in some or the other kind of service, be it to our family members, be it to animals, be it to the community at large. And that I was grown up in that sanskar, what we say, of seva, of doing things not just for yourself, but there's a larger commitment that all the actions, all the intentions need to be a little larger than just you, which the influence of a joint family does have on you, wherein the individuality somewhere gets mashed with the entire larger perspective. And I had it was both the things. I think I did have an environment of all of those things that I saw, but along with it, there was an inner call to continuously to serve. Maybe it is also being the firstborn that I feel like I have this ability and wish to keep serving everyone. But it stemmed from that idea that if I have something in me, rather than keeping it for myself, can I open it up? Can I make it available to everyone? Can I share all of it? So in that way, my love for reading, like how can we share that with everyone? Let it be open. Why have these boundaries? Can all of us come together and enjoy and spread this love a little more? Similarly, in my college, when I used to go out, I used to always give free trips to people. Like if I would see an elder walking on the street, I would get moved. I'm like, why are they walking? It's so hot or it's so cold. And I would ask them that, where are you going? So they're like, oh, I'm going here. Even if I was not going there, I'd say, oh, I'm going there only. Let me drop you. So, it was the satisfaction of catering to or serving someone else without any expectation, and the kind of bliss that you experience within. I got hooked onto that. I think that feeling of being so satisfied that it served all of you and not just you temporarily, but for a longer time. So I wanted to experience that a little more. And over these years, like I formally began serving in the name of karma from 2009. And those were just acts of kindness. From there, I understood what it really means to do charity. A lot of, I think, building of character has happened because of it. A lot of introspection of also who I am, why I'm serving, what is it fulfilling within me? Is that conditioning or is that really coming from myself?
Correct. Because if it was conditioning, it would pass on to all the siblings.
All of it, yeah. You're right.
So this is something which is very unique to your soul.
Correct.
Your soul calling. Yes.
Yeah. I've loved being able to become a medium or creating a platform for everyone to share this joy.
Beautiful. And karma also happened like that. How about Elixir? What was the driving force behind Elixir?
Again, I have always loved to excel. So when I joined the family business in 2010, I used to take care of international business, and we'd set up an office in Singapore, and I used to look at a global perspective. I have never been able to operate in small bits. Like I think large, I operate large, and I need very, very large numbers and things to be comfortable with. I think that's my comfort zone. I need magnitude, I need largeness. So when I was looking at a world scenario, and when we were researching in terms of we do consume our food in this way, what's going to happen next? So there was a series that I was looking at, A World in 2045 by Michio Kaku, and in that I started thinking about how will people consume food, what will be the trends, how will the world consume, how are the world production going, what's happening to the environment, how's that going to change our food quality, what's coming ahead. So I've been thinking only in terms of what's coming in the future and what role will I play there. So that's how Elixir was formed, wherein we understood the trends that were going to come. And I was one of those first people in the entire country to start thinking about cold press oils, to start working on cold press oils. At that time, everyone in my industry thought, who eats cold press oils? What are cold press oils? Like you were going to vanish in thin air. But today we see that almost everybody is consuming cold press oils. So we were one of those first to even start thinking about, these are the trends that are going to happen. And we projected it's not just in oils, that the going back to roots, the world will become tired of extreme globalization, where your food's traveling more distance, where, the world's depleted of a lot of resources. So this trend, we foresee that it was going to come, and that's how I invested in this entire thought process.
Beautiful. And while you are wearing so many hats, Priyanshi, do you ever struggle with work and life? Because you have a beautiful daughter, a beautiful house that you such warmly cater and take care of. Do you struggle with work-life balance, as we in these days call?
Absolutely. I think all of us, with the demands of time, we're all struggling and looking at things. But I love looking at it in terms of a juggle. Like, I do have a lot of balls that I'm juggling. But rather than holding all of them together, I am trying to ensure that I juggle well. That at one given point, with mindfulness, what you've also taught me over all of these years is hold that one in the now.
Yes, yes.
Like, keep throwing and keep catching, but it's that now in terms of what are you holding and are you really doing it at that time. There are times wherein I'm off and everything falls down,
Yes.
but most of the times I think the juggle's going quite well. Wherein at a given point, if I am somewhere, I'm quite there, and the rest of the things, they're in the air, they are doing their loops. But it's an art of ensuring that when you're holding one, you've thought about this whole circle, how are the other things going, and then you keep juggling all of those balls.
So when you mention about juggling, it is very, um, you know, juggling might lead to burnout very often. Does that lead to burnout or a lot of stress that you need to handle? If yes, how do you overcome that?
Absolutely. It is a burning out experience, and it's also moving too fast too soon. And
Yes.
this was told to me, I think, almost 14 years back by a very dear friend. She's like, you're running too fast. It's like, you're going to burn out. And in the peaks of the rush of blood and like the youth power, I felt like, no, 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 I will never burn out. But yes, burnout does happen. And I go through those cycles when I'm extremely exhausted. So the term that I use is I hibernate. And people around me, they have experienced my hibernations. So I go in my shell.
Right.
I go through that phase, and I have been very vocal about how, in my quest of doing too many things and chasing excellence, I get tired. And then I recharge. There are beautiful people like you, my daughter, and they ensure that my batteries are recharged enough for me to go again and fight another
Then
rounds
another
of
juggles.
jugglings
Yes.
and then get back.
That was actually going to be my next question of how does your soul recharge? Because I have found you to be one of the most soulful people around, and person like you needs to recharge the soul, because you are a giver. You are somebody who is out there trying to, you know, give everything that you have in your capacity to everyone that you know. So be it financially or mind, with your thoughts, ideas, emotions, you are present physically. You are always serving in all quadrants. And soul recharge is very, very vital for a person like you. So, is there a self care routine or is there something that you do on a daily basis to recharge your soul?
For my soul, I've been blessed to have a spiritual coach and someone I love beyond the word love is capable of expressing. I think it's that presence, not a conversation, not anything. I think in the presence of that spiritual being, my soul recharges completely. So those doses I definitely need a couple of times in a year. But apart from that, something that I have always related to where my soul feels satisfied and full and recharged is the ability to serve. Now I love cooking for my daughter, but I do cook now for most of the people. So it's like in my house, it's like if every day, if I've not fed 6, 7 people, I feel like there's something missing in my soul. So I love to cook myself, and like I distribute food, and food is the way that I think I recharge. And there's a beautiful lesson that I was taught that when we're cooking, and if we cook for the divine, if we cook for God, entire space, the entire experience changes. And I have experienced it. I do not believe it, but when I started cooking, and in that process of cooking, a small prayer saying that I'm cooking for the divine, I'm cooking for God, I think that entire shifted the experience of consuming, the experience of cooking, the experience of serving, everything changed. So I think dedicating things to the divine and consuming everything as the prasad, um, that for me becomes the point wherein I recharge, both physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Amazing, amazing. Just recently, somebody was saying that I am a very unconventional uh, devotee of Krishna. Unlike other people who wake up Krishna, bathe Krishna, then dress Krishna, and then bhog tayar karna, and properly doing all of that. And I am more like an aghori who's doing absolutely nothing and just saying that I am a devotee. Uh, what I realized in that moment that I'm actually doing everything for him rather than doing in parts during the day. I wake up with him, I sleep with him, I take bath with him, I cook for him, and I eat with him. So I think when we have an attitude like doing everything for the divine, uh, it becomes a kirtan, becomes a satsang, it becomes a divine experience every moment. You really don't need to go to a certain place to experience that or do certain things.
That completely aligns with what my coach tells me, that life is a 24 into 7 conversation with the divine, not a conversation. It's continuous, unbroken conversation with the divine.
Totally, truly. So I have always seen you engrossed in reading, and you have been one of the most voracious readers that I know. Again, any top three books that you would like to recommend to the listeners?
One, I love the Bhagavad Gita. I think I've been reading my family, I've seen my family reading. That's one text that I go back to again and again. And recently, with the Hare Krishna mission, I really understood in much depth what jewels the text has. So, one, the Bhagavad Gita, and not just reading, but really understanding and imbibing it in our lives. Um, the other books, I think there are too many that I love, but something that I've really gone back to again and again, and something that's changed my life is by Khalil Gibran, The Prophet. And it changed my perspective. It was not just reading it, but also thinking about it much deeper. So my idea of a giver, and I used to always think about myself as a giver, and that entire definition was changed, where Khalil Gibran said that giver is always God, that God's giving. Like, who do you think you are a giver? Like, do you really think you are one? Because in the charity sector also, we always see that, is the person really needy? So we come from a place of judgment, and we think about
The needy and the giver. So,
yeah,
and I comes into picture.
I come. So this was beautiful, wherein like I understood where the divine, God is the giver. We're always the mediums. So that entire ego of I am the one who's giving got completely shattered. So that's one book that I really highly recommend.
The Prophet.
The Prophet.
Okay.
And third is by Marcus Aurelius, Meditations.
The Meditation.
It's on Stoicism,
Beautiful.
and that's something that in the last few years I have gifted also quite a lot, and I do
Really?
read it also. It was not meant to come out as a book. It's just Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest, Roman emperors' journals, and it's his reflections and his meditations that become invaluable for any leader or any person to also read and imbibe in their life.
So again, I think books like these also need some guide for you to help and decode and understand the depths of the layers of these books, because they are not just texts. There are so many layers, and we need to read it again and again. But thank you for these recommendations. Also, because this is a podcast, are you fond of listening to podcasts?
I'm a reader. I
I
need
know
that
the feel of the
that
books.
feel. No, not quite,
Much.
not as of now.
Okay.
But I do listen to a lot of things that come my way. So those are more for learning. They're not for entertainment. I think
Yes.
for entertainment, I need that
The
book
book, the
people, my
physical.
snuggle corners, and
That's
enjoying it.
amazing. And I think that's the what the Gen Z call the OG way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to be in a winter evening. You have your hot cup of
Hot
coffee or hot
chocolate
chocolate
and
and that cozy corner. That's the
the
best.
candles.
That could be the best self care. The world needs unadulterated, unapologetic version of you. You are the contribution. So, for being you, you need to shed off any layers that you may have acquired over the years and truly find yourself. And to truly find yourself, you must know who you are. So, with this, let me ask you, Priyanshi, who are you? Without any title, without the roles that you play, without uh, any tags, anything that this world has given you, who are you?
I think I'd like to think that I'm a soul having a physical experience,
Yes.
not a physical being.
Beautiful.
So I think at a soul level or without all of these baggages, I think we're all just the pure bliss and happiness that we can be. So I would love to, assume that
The pure
without
bliss
all
and
the layers,
happiness. Yes.
I'm just bliss.
And what magic can it be if we can stay in this knowing and stay connected with this knowing at every given point of time?
Um, this brings me back to this beautiful conversation that I had where I kept saying that I'm looking or I want to attain enlightenment or moksha. And it was said that it's as simple as I'm wearing these glasses
Hmm.
and I'm asking everyone that I need glasses. So they said, we already have all of these things in us. It's just about realization.
Correct.
So I feel we all are this idea of bliss, love, pure inner happiness and calm. It's just when we not find it, but just pause, stay, and just realize that we are everything as it is, like without anything as well.
Correct.
We just are. So
Just be, just are.
just being.
That's actually profound, difficult, I understand, because we live in the Saha world, we live in the world which is, again, the moment we step out of these doors, there is this world waiting with all the other things around. And then our perspective, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we receive, perceive, changes. But this knowing itself is so profound. And with this knowing, I would like you to share this last words of what is that one lesson, one mantra, or one thing that you abide by every single day in every phase of your life that is like your go to, that you keep reminding yourself that no matter what, this stays truth.
So that is this too shall pass. Everything. I think the good, the great, the bad, the worst, I think everything is transient. So that's something that I go by.
It's so beautiful that we started with your childhood and how you learned the importance of this transient nature, and then we are ending this conversation that everything is transient and this too shall pass. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode. Thank you, Priyanshi, once
My
again.
pleasure.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining this, and this was beautiful. Thank you.